For quality meat, you'll need to take several precautions when recovering your game.
Il est mort, Geneviève. Oui, madame. On a 48 heures après la sortie de la forêt pour enregistrer le gibier.
Of course, you'll have to pack all the field dressing equipment you'll need on your trip. A well-sharpened knife, a gutting knife, a saw, nylon fasteners, rope, and protective gloves. It's important to gut the animal as quickly as possible to cool it and avoid the risk of contamination. The technique is demonstrated here on a white-tailed deer, but the field dressing principle is similar for other big game. The first step is to put the animal on its back and make an incision going around the anus. Once the rectum is freed, be sure to seal it to prevent feces from escaping and contaminating the meat. Next, make a small 2.5 centimeter incision below the sternum. Then, use a gut knife to cut the abdomen down to the genitals, ideally by pulling the knife upward. Here we suggest using this knife with a turned-up blade to avoid piercing the viscera. Now, using a standard knife, continue the incision to the opening already made around the anus. Then, cut the pelvic bone with a saw. Next, cut the tissues that hold the rectum in place. Once the rectum is removed, grab the base of the large intestine and pull the bowels toward the inside of the animal. Now, continue the incision and cut the skin all the way to the throat. However, if you're planning to have the head stuffed, it's important to stop your incision at the base of the neck. Then cut the sternum with a saw to free the organs. A real butcher saw or battery-powered reciprocating saw will make this job much easier for you. After the thorax is open, it's time to sever the esophagus as far up in the neck as possible. The next step is to cut the diaphragm, which separates the heart and the lungs from the rest of the organs. Cut the tissues that hold the diaphragm to the carcass, following along the rib cage. To protect the meat from contamination, be very careful not to pierce the stomach, intestines, or bladder. Now, cut the tissues that hold the esophagus and the rest of the bowels in place so you can remove them from the animal. You can also recover the heart and the tongue, which are edible. It is not recommended to eat the liver and kidneys due to the high rate of cadmium that they may contain. After the animal is gutted, to ensure high-quality game meat, the blood should be expelled from the muscles by pumping the legs. Then, turn the animal over to drain out the blood. Now, make an incision between the tibia and the tendon on each back leg, through which you can pass a rope and hang the animal upside down. We also recommend leaving the rib cage open to promote air circulation. The carcass will cool faster this way. The meat should be kept between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius so it doesn't spoil. If the ambient temperature is higher, You should immediately register your animal and then take it to a cold room at a butcher shop. If you are still using lead bullets, it is important to dispose of the meat around the point of impact to prevent contamination due to lead fragmentation. According to the law, once the animal has been harvested, you have a maximum of 48 hours after leaving the hunting ground to register your game. You can register a white-tailed deer in 2 separate parts. For females, the rear half includes the vulva, and for males, the rear half of the deer includes the scrotum. The purpose of these requirements is to ensure that there are 2 identifiable parts of the same deer. Every caribou and moose shot must be transported and presented to a registration station, either whole or in identifiable quarters. In the case of a moose cut in quarters, the hunter must also present the whole head or the whole lower jaw, and if the animal is male, the antlers attached to the skull or part of it. For a black bear, the hunter must present the animal's carcass or fur. If you hunt or transport game outside Quebec, it's important to check transport regulations before leaving home. These rules were made to prevent the spread of diseases. This way, you'll be sure to transport your game according to the rules and won't have any unpleasant surprises when you get home. Happy hunting!